Hi, friend. Thanks for joining me for the next few minutes as my guest and I talk about overcoming the mountains in your life. My guest will share their story of God's move in their life, and I will throw in some wisdom along the way also. Sit with a cup of coffee and listen, or take me on your journey. I'm here for you. This is Moving Mountains with Melissa Montana. I'm so glad that you are joining us today. I have an amazing guest with me. It's somebody that I've spent a lot of time with talking. We've talked a lot about relationships. So we're going to dig deep. We're going to talk about single women and single men, and we'll probably even get in on a little bit of marriage advice because I have some of that also, even though I'm not married at this time. But I'm so glad you're here because we want to help you build your faith, have a holy, bold faith, and do it in your relationship. So if you've been desperate, if you made some poor choices, haven't we all? I'm going to help you. And my guest is going to help you also, because we're going to talk from different generations about dating and what works, what doesn't work, and what's the key focus. So if you made some really terrible mistakes, you're not alone, friend. Hang on, we're going to help you through that, and also maybe pick you up here and help you decide where I'm going to go with this and who I'm going to be with and why. Why are you making the choices that you're making? You're making poor choices? Well, we're going to talk about that and how to get through that. We don't want you to find yourself in a really terrible situation where it's a dead end for everybody. So let's talk about health and healing in relationships. And I want to introduce my expert guest right now. Didn't think even a few months ago we would be talking about this. But since I have her here, she's the lovely, the talented, the beautiful, my daughter, LaShay Montana.
Hello.
Woohoo! Yay!
Cue the applause.
I know. I am so glad we're doing this.
Me too.
Talking about relationships. I don't know too many moms and daughters that have a chance to talk about what's going on in their life, what they've experienced. So why are you willing to do this with me, my daughter, LaShay Montana?
I think even though I'm 25, I've seen a variety of relationships, whether that be with, a boyfriend or different friendships. Just I've had a variety of experiences in relationships. And so if there was any advice that I could pass along to somebody else, I just want to be, a helpful little tidbit.
I think some of our conversations at home behind closed doors, we're going to reveal some of those right now.
Oh,
so
goodness.
Are you scared?
Maybe a little, because we talk about some crazy things.
We do, definitely. And I love our relationship, and I'm so grateful for you to be open and willing to talk about things that you've gone through. And of course, I'm an open book. I will talk about things I've been through, mistakes I've made, choices I've made that didn't work out. And some of them weren't just that I was making a poor choice. It's that the person didn't turn out to be who I thought they were. And so I didn't see that. And I want people to go in with eyes wide open and understanding. Don't get desperate. And I think that's one of our things that we've talked about, how we see women, especially because we're women, that they get desperate, LaShay, and they start making choices and decisions that ruin their relationship, ruin the next few months, years, maybe even, because they're desperate.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
I've been there, done that.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's so easy to get caught up in that kind of, you forget how a relationship kind of should operate. And I think a lot of times I am guilty for this, kind of pursuing the man, which is so odd and bizarre to me. Like when I take a step back and look at that, because that's not how God designed, a relationship, a marriage. The man is the person I believe that is supposed to pursue. But yes, desperate is not a good look, but it can be easy to fall into.
Yes. So when we get desperate, I feel like it says that we're not trusting God to bring the person in our life. We're not trusting God for those decisions in our life, and we feel like we want to control it. And being bold, confident women that we are, we tend to want to control some things sometimes, and it's easy to want to say, this is the way it's going to be. This is what I want to see happen. Well, you can want those things, but if you start controlling and not let the man be the role that he's supposed to be, what do you think happens?
Well, I feel like it's talked about now more often, because for a while I had never really heard of someone being in like their feminine era. And so that's something I've realized over time, that I've always been the one that wears the pants in the relationship, takes the bull by the horns, because that is my personality. But I think it's so important for the man to be the caretaker, the dominant one, if you will, and allow the woman to fall back into her feminine era. be treated. Let a man open the door. I mean,
Really? Come on now, girl.
You've heard
You're
from
talking.
me, I always say, I'm like, I don't need a man to open my door. Like, I can open my own door. I can pay
Sure.
for my own food. I can, like, that's how my mind operates. But it's
Yeah.
also because I've never been taken care of in the sense that a man has ever done those things. But there's also a difference in between a boy and a man. And
Okay, come on now.
a godly Christian man
Okay.
will do all of those things because
Yes.
he views it as, it's a pleasure to treat you, take care of you. It's not because they have to, but it's because they want to. A good godly man would want to do those things and allow you to fall into that role.
When you're choosing the right person, you will find someone that falls into that role like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not choosing the right person, he won't act the right way.
Correct.
So we're not just putting this on the man.
No.
We're saying it's our choice that if we're not allowing the right man in our life, then we're setting ourselves up for failure and not a good relationship.
No.
So how did you get to this point? Because I opened with that even months ago, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
And man, girl, you have had an epiphany moment. God has really been speaking to you through you. Why? And can you jump into that a little bit? Whatever you want to share.
Yes. I think a variety of things have happened over the past few months that have just been really eye-opening for me. And I think I really needed to go through in order to come out stronger, braver, more faithful to God on the other side. Mm-hmm. Even talking with Nana this past weekend, hearing her say, like, I think you needed to have a breaking point to grow through it, And I completely agree. While you're in it, it hurts and it's not fun. But now being on this side, it's, again, moving mountains. Like, it's like I climbed that mountain. It was hard. It was not fun. But the view at the top is so beautiful. And now I can say that. But going back to what you were saying earlier, I think also, not putting this on the man, but I believe you attract people based on how you are and kind of, where you're at. I hear so many times people are like, well, I just want a godly, loving man. I'm like, but are you a godly, loving woman? Like, do you serve the Lord? Like, you can't expect God to place someone like that into your life if you're not, their match either. That's not fair to them.
Yes.
So I think that's something that I've realized recently because spiritually I was not where I needed to be. And I was attracting people that were spiritually not where they needed to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, they weren't meant for me. I was not meant for them. But I know at the end of the day what I want and what I want my future spouse to look like. And I think God is doing a lot of work in me right now. I'm really focusing on myself and growing and developing so that I can be a good mate to someone someday.
I love that we've talked about how if he doesn't love Jesus, he can't love you well. If he can't say he loves Jesus, because guys will, and women will do this too. So if you're a guy watching or listening and you're saying,
hey, to just
no,
males.
This is not, we're only coming from a female perspective, but guys can see this too. You choose somebody that's, they're sweet, they're nice, they say they're a Christian, and yet they can't say they love Jesus.
There's a very, very large difference. And I've had to learn that multiple times. Yeah. God's like, here's a lesson. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, here's the same lesson. Like, he will give you the lesson over and over and over until you understand it and believe it and receive it. But yes, one of my good friends always would kind of challenge me with that. Anytime I would bring up a new guy or someone I'm talking to, she would say, does he love Jesus? And this is a giveaway. If my voice goes up, I'm lying. I can't hide it. Like, I don't really lie. Like, I'm a very honest person, I would say.
You definitely are.
But so she would ask me, does he love Jesus? What? Yeah. Like, he goes to church. Like, okay. And all my friends know, she's lying. And it's not that like I'm, didn't want to be honest, but I think that's a really hard thing to say. Like, spiritually, he's not where he needs to be.
Oh, nobody wants to admit that I'm with someone that spiritually they're not where they should be. Okay, if you know deep down in your heart, and if you're seeing this and you're listening to this, if you know the person you're with is not spiritually where they need to be, if they're not beyond you, that's not a good fit. Seriously, because we talked about that before, that they shouldn't be running behind you.
No.
You should be running together.
Together, yes. I think there's something very... how do I say this? There's something very rare about finding a man that is spiritually beyond where you're at. I mean,
Yes.
I haven't met anybody. Again, maybe I'm just not going to the right places.
Yet.
Yes.
Yet.
And there's, again, nothing wrong with that because I'm in a season of developing me and growing, with the Lord. But yes, there's something very, very special about having a male, and that's how it should be. He's supposed to be the leader of the family for you and your relationship, and other aspects too. But I think that would be something that's definitely very important.
Okay, so I'm thinking, just sidebar here real quick. If you are married and he's not the leader, the spiritual leader, pray for him. Support him. Be the support mate that you should be if you're already in the relationship. Okay, that's a challenge, and I know that's difficult. So no judgment here. But we're talking about before you get in the relationship, before you get engaged. Don't get engaged if he or she is not where they need to be spiritually, because it will mess things up in your life. I'm telling you, friend, at my age, I'm a mature woman and I'm single right now, and I would never settle at all. You've just come through this journey, and to see you where you are now, I'm so proud of you to be able to say, I need to be where I need to be. I can't be praying for Mr. Right if I'm not Miss Right.
Exactly.
You can't be praying for the other person to be Miss Right or Mr. Right if you're not that also. So if I'm not serving Jesus all the way, Lord, help me not to think that I could attract someone that's not serving Jesus all the way. You are who you attract. That's right.
You are a mirror.
Yes. So be careful, be cautious, because it just is so deadly when you get in a relationship and they don't love Jesus.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we're not super spiritual. We don't talk about those things all the time.
Well, you should be.
Say that louder.
You should be.
Okay.
That would be the first question now, being on this side of things, that I would have with somebody, because I like to get deep with someone. Like, I like to talk about deep things, like get to know, and like, tell me the root of your trauma, or like, what's your furthest memory that you have? Like, I like to know. I'm not like, what's your favorite color? Like, I want to know you. And I think that's how it should be. And that's like the fun part of dating. But I would have no problem, saying, so like, what do you do for work? And do you love Jesus? Because again, based on their answer, it would tell me if they are like, oh, I just haven't found a church. Like, okay, again, nothing wrong with that, but it's not for me. And there's nothing wrong with like having a high standard. I would rather have the highest of standards and say, someone say, well, her standards are unrealistic, maybe to you, but I know what I'm chasing after. And I know, what I bring to the table. So there's nothing wrong with saying, he's a great guy. He checks a lot of my boxes. But this is like the one, I think, deal breaker. Non-negotiable in my opinion. And based on how you ask him, do you love Jesus? And if he sits there and is like, let me tell you about what the Lord's done in my life. He's my best friend. Like, I will love him more than I will love you. Like, that's how it should be. And I love him so much so that I can, serve you in the way he's called me to. But based on his answer, I would challenge anybody to look their day in the eyes and say, so do you love Jesus? Maybe not on the first one if you're not comfortable with that. But I'm telling you, it would weed out a lot of the bad ones real quick.
Right. I think that's so good. Like I said, I'm so proud of you and so glad to hear this, because I know after years of living it, I know that it works. And I know that if you are focused on serving God, serving Jesus over who you can get in your life, if we get desperate again, if you're just now checking into this interview, if you're getting desperate by who you're choosing, you're going to miss out on God's best. Then you're saying that you don't trust God for him to help make a decision for you. And I need to lean on God for everything. I want my choices to be because the Lord has spoken to me and through me, not like, ooh, he's great, he's good looking, he's fabulous, he's got all of this, or she's, look at her, she's fabulous. Don't just go by looks, even though we're all attracted to looks. I know that. But look at their hearts. Look at their spirit. Their characters, everything. There are a couple of things that we've noticed that when you're out with someone, how they treat other people.
I would say this is kind of a random one, but how they treat like servers or, even if you're running through the drive-through, like there's definitely been situations where I'm like, I cannot believe they just spoke to that person like that. Like, you just don't know what that other person's going through. So to me, I'm like, if that's how you would speak to a stranger, like, where's your heart at? But yes, I think someone that's truly kind and selfless is something that's also really important. You can be nice. There's a lot of nice people.
Yes.
But someone that's truly kind, I think that like never changes. I think
Yeah.
as you get older, having like a softness about you, I don't know why is frowned upon now some days. Like I think you can
know.
still be tough and, like a manly man, but have like a softness about you.
Sure.
And that to me is
Attractive.
very attractive.
Very attractive. Being godly and being kind. Of course, Nana's always said that to us. She said it to me for years, and then you came along as my girl that she's always said, marry somebody that's kind.
She has always said that.
She said that, and she married someone kind. Dad was kind. Papa was kind.
Papa was kind.
He was always kind, never harsh with her, and we saw that for years before we lost him a few years ago. And so find someone that's kind. They can be bold and outgoing and fun, but if we can't be kind, if there's not a soft spot in our life, then I think it speaks volumes about your relationship with the Lord. And so we can be real raw right here. If you are not where you need to be spiritually, you're going to make poor choices. I love that you've said that you noticed that. I can't make a good choice in the right person if I'm not listening to God, because he's our filter. Our filter comes from the Lord. Our filter comes from Jesus. You don't have a filter if you're not getting close to the Lord because you're trying to figure it out on your own. We don't want to do this journey in relationships on our own.
No, because so often I hear, we'll just follow your heart.
Oh, we just talked about that too.
Yes.
That's gotten a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah. No, don't ever follow your heart.
Do not follow your heart. Follow Jesus.
Yes. I would say you can listen to your heart.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with like,
sure.
I hear that.
Absolutely.
But like check with God first, because he'll make it clear. Every relationship, friendship that I've kind of had a sense of, oh, I'm feeling weird about this.
Yeah.
I always ask God, if they're not supposed to be in my life, remove them. And that again, that goes for relationships, but also friendships that, again, nothing really happened, but they weren't meant to be around long term. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times also you will hear him say that and remove and you
ignore
like,
it.
I don't think that's what I'm hearing.
I didn't hear that. Couldn't have been
something
God.
else. I'm like, no, because it's taken me a few times. But again, there's something so relieving and such a like, I can't even explain it, put it into words, but a peace.
Peace of God.
Peace is the best word that I can use that I've felt more in the last 60 days than I have probably in my entire life. Like, I feel like I can breathe. It's like the waters are calm. Like, I can just feel him. Because I heard him, I listened to him, and I chose to obey. And was it fun, easy? Absolutely not. But I know that later down the road, and right now too, he's going to honor that.
Amen. I love that you said, I chose to obey. You can choose to obey God's word. And if we choose to follow him, he will make sure that he leads and guides. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to hide from you. He's not going to say, well, I'm busy right now. I'll put you on the list. He's always there, always attentive. He is right there walking with you, and he'll never leave you nor forsake you in your relationships. So don't think that that's the one area. And let me throw this in too. If that's the one area where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to trust God in all the other areas of my life, my decisions for my home, for my job, for my prayer time, but I'm going to kind of hang on to the relationship thing because I want to do what I want to do. You're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on God's best because you got to surrender it all to him. Everything needs to be surrendered to him. So it's your finances and your relationship. It's your home and your relationship. It's your work and your family and your relationships. And you had mentioned
all connected.
Yes,
they're all connected, especially when you get past the dating into engagement and marriage. As you know, those are all connected. Those are all intertwined. So if you're trusting him, like, oh, I'm going to pick, like, oh, I'll trust him here, but not with my finances because that's my money.
Yes.
Wrong mentality.
Come on, we can do a whole nother show on that, okay? We'll talk about that another time. Well, we're talking today about relationships and how maybe you feel like, but this is a big one for me. I mess it up every time, or I've really screwed up in this area, or I don't know how to pick the right person. It feels like a mountain. That's why we're talking about moving mountains on this podcast, because we believe that God can show you how to move that mountain in your life. He is the mountain mover for sure. And I believe if we can get a hold of the relationships in our life, and like you said, dating, marriage, I'm going to say in marriage, let me throw a little marriage tip in here real quick. When's the last time that you sat down with your spouse and helped them fulfill their dreams? Have you done that lately? I encourage you to do that, to have those date nights and maybe a couple times a year say, what are your dreams? How can I help you fulfill your dreams? Because we're always trying to fulfill our own dreams. And I saw that advice from someone that was a counselor and an author that wrote about it. And that really spoke to my heart. And I hope someday that maybe I can have those conversations because I would want to do that. Like, what are your dreams, honey? I want to be able to help you fulfill your dreams. Man, you can only grow in your relationship that way. Make it more about them than about you. And God will definitely do that for you. So we just want you to be healthy in your relationships. But if God is not at the center, then it's just not going to be healthy. We've seen a lot of people that go to church and they've got someone they're hoping can come through, hoping will go to church, hoping that will pray with them. And they don't quite yet. Well, we're praying them in. So we're praying that God will be the focus and the center of your life. You can even get along with someone for years and hope that it does. And you've been praying. I know women that have married men that weren't believers, been married 20 years, 25 years. Their heartache has been very genuine and real. And I don't want that for you. We don't want that for you. So either starting out young, you make the right decision now, or when you're older, you're going to pay a price. And we don't want that. So we do pray for your marriage if it's in a difficult place right now and you're like, this is so hard. God can bring healing, and he does do that. I've seen that. But you don't want to go into a marriage or a relationship that way anyway. He wants the best for you. But our eyes focus on Jesus first, right?
Yes. 100%.
And then how have you felt after you've made these changes and you've just let God totally take control over your relationship and your life?
Fulfilled.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's
crazy how God will remove something and replace it with something so much greater.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean another person.
Right.
It means
fulfillment.
him. He's like, hey, me, like I should be the focus. I had heard of this like analogy, and that's kind of what's brought me so much peace is I've like envisioned God sitting at this table, like waiting for me, like a first date, waiting for me for years and years. And I'll just walk by,
say hi,
really, like, hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
But never like take the seat and sit down and just be with him. And I finally feel like I am at the table with him, truly.
Yes.
And there's, again, something like when I'm with him, I don't care what's going on. Like, there's something that he just takes away every, doubt that I have and every fear that I've had, whether that being, I think one big thing for me is I'm 25 and in the Midwest, it's like, you're not married, you don't have kids. Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
I'm like,
nothing.
Nothing. I thought my life would look very different. When I was younger, I thought I would have 2 kids, married and have 2 kids by 25. I still feel like I'm a child. Like, I couldn't imagine having to carry around 2 kids, let alone 1. And there's people that do it that are my age and younger, and they kill it, and I'm happy for them. Yeah. But I just know that my, life and story looks a little bit different, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's story looks different. So I believe comparison is the thief of joy. I heard someone say that, and I fully believe it. When I hear people are like, well, they have, I'm like, but it doesn't matter. Because again, comparing to them, robbing your joy. Right. So focus on God and your timeline, and he will place the right things in your life at the right time. You just have to trust him, because I don't think people actually trust him when they say they do. Because that was me. I'm like, I trust him. I'm like, no, you don't. Because I can tell the difference of now I do versus then I did not.
And I can see that difference. And it's so refreshing to look at you being complete. It feels like you're fulfilled. You feel stable and settled because you've given it all over to the Lord, and you're not trying to do these relationships on your own. And you've realized, don't settle.
Yes.
So that's my word. Never settle. Never settle.
And if somebody asks you, are you settling? And there's hesitation.
Come on. Let's go.
Because that was me.
Yes. It's easy to cover and go, this is good enough. Never say it's good enough. No. If you can't say this is the most amazing, extraordinary, emotional, fabulous thing that we feel God in, and don't make God okay with it if it's really not okay. You can say God's okay with it, but really, are you both focused on him? Is he the Lord of both of your lives? then you can move forward. That's the best way to do that. So don't let this mountain of a relationship overwhelm you and make you feel like I can't do this. For a lot of people, relationships are really difficult. And so that's why we're calling this moving mountains, because God can move that relationship mountain in your life. We both know I've got other stories of my own that God took me out of difficult situations. My heart was broken many times. I've gone through really hard things, and I've had people, someone in particular, be unfaithful and leave me in a marriage. But God overcame that mountain for me. And I'm so blessed and happy today. And it's been many years. And then because of that, it put me in a different frame of mind, a different lifestyle, and a different life being a single woman. And then God brought me my beautiful daughter that I got to bring home as a baby from Guatemala. And so that's our journey. We have an incredible story. So don't think that yours didn't work out. No, it just didn't work out the way you thought it would, but He's got a better plan. He will move that mountain in your life. LaShay, Montana, thank you, sister.
Thank you.
I love my daughter. She's the most beautiful thing to me. I can't wait to do this again. Let's do it again, okay?
Yes, let's do it again.
All right, let's move some mountains, friends. Appreciate you. God is the one for you. He's your source and your strength. And with Him, all things are possible. Let's go. Thank you for joining me on this segment. There are many more to come. I hope you'll make this a regular spot in the months ahead to find inspiration and a bold faith to trust God. I want to thank my friends at Windows, Doors, and More in Fort Wayne, Indiana for their support of this podcast. I love that their values align with the messages heard right here on Moving Mountains.